Well, thanks for joining me here. It's Get to Know, and it's that time of the year already. It's 2025 of the fall, but we're going to be talking about elections that take place in 2026. I have a candidate here that's running for the 7th Congressional District here in Wisconsin, Fred Clark. He's a Democrat, and he's going to tell us about himself first, and then we're going to go through a lot of different questions. And again, this isn't going to take place the election until 2026, but you know it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah. Tom, good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invite.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
All right. Well, let's get to know you a bit. Tell me about where you live, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Yeah. So I live in Bayfield County, about 4 hours north of here. And I've been in Wisconsin about 35 years. And most of that time I've worked as a forester and a land manager and worked all through the state. In fact, one of my first contracts when I started my own business in 1995 was working for the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest, marking timber and getting to know all of that land base from here all the way up to Washburn. And since that time then, I've also served in state government. I was a state legislator representing parts of Sauk and Columbia and Marquette counties. That began in 2009, and in that time I got involved in conservation policy, education policy. You know, in the state legislature you take on a whole lot of things and you learn a whole lot about how government works. And here I am today, about 12 years after my state service ended, and I'm throwing my hat in the ring to run for Congress here in the 7th Congressional District.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that information for our viewers here. Definitely your experience that you have as a forester, because that is probably was government work at the time, right, that you had to do?
It was a real mix. I worked for a short time with Wisconsin DNR, and then I started my own business because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And we provided services to anybody who owned forests, farmers that own woodlots, forest owners from basically Baraboo all the way up to Tomahawk and Eagle River and throughout the North Woods. But also worked for government too. We'd contracted with the agencies that had forest land. Okay. Anything that involved the health of the forest, including logging, tree planting, setting up timber sales, that was all stuff that we did. Great career. Boy, did I loved it every single day.
Oh, it's always fun to enjoy your job. That's really important.
Yeah.
But now you're going to turn yourself to running for the 7th Congressional District. Those that don't know who that, what that is, he's going to explain a bit where. But currently, Tom Tiffany is in that seat, and he is going to run for governor, and that opens up both parties. And will be a big election. So where is this 7th Congressional District? It has to be here in Marshfield, as you're here talking.
You bet it is, yeah. It's a huge district. There are 8 congressional districts in Wisconsin. The 7th is by far the largest. It's basically the northern third of Wisconsin and includes all of the North Woods. From here in Marshfield, you can run it all the way north to the very tip of the Bayfield Peninsula. You can take it on the west side all the way to Hudson and New Richmond and Spooner and Danbury and communities there. And on the east side, you could take it all the way to Forest and Florence County and Antigo and Merrill and Leona. So it really is it's 26 counties. A lot of ground to cover from the north to the south, east to the west, and a lot of different issues that are all within that. But predominantly, we're talking about rural Wisconsin, small towns, agriculture, forests, clean lakes, and the recreational sort of heart of the state is all right here.
Okay. And this is like a federal position. This isn't a state, right? Even though it's in the state, this individual may have to travel to DC, am I right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. When you are a congressperson or a representative to the U.S. House of Representatives, you are in Washington regularly. So you're up on the Capitol.
Okay.
You're voting on bills along with the 430 some other U.S. representatives in the House. And then you should be coming home to do your job by traveling your district, talking to the people that you represent, and making sure that you can be an effective representative and ambassador for the people of northern Wisconsin and Washington.
Now you're coming in here, Forrester really was involved with that. What are the things that you would like people to know that you're supportive of that might help you get the word out?
Sure. Well, as a small business owner myself, for a long time, I believe firmly that we need to invest in our small businesses, especially in rural Wisconsin. And that means our farms. That means our farms of all sizes, but especially the smaller farms that are really struggling right now to hang on as the crop prices and the cost of production continues to increase, and the crop prices don't really keep up with that. Our small manufacturing businesses, that's where the bulk of employment is in our region, is not necessarily just mom and pop, but the small companies that are privately owned by people that live in the community and might employ 25, 30, 50 people. That's the bulk of our jobs in northern Wisconsin, is businesses that size, not the Amazons of the world or the huge multinationals. And if we want benefits to our community from economic activity, that's really where I believe we need to focus.
Okay, so you'll be wanting to work with small business all the way north of here, northwest of here, and any further south than Marshfield. I think that's about it here.
Yeah, it goes a bit farther south into parts of the southern part of Wood County,
Okay.
and then there's a little bit of Monroe County, and then it's a long list, and that map is something that I think if you're able to show it with a segment, that'll be really eye-opening.
Okay. Well, let's talk about some more things that are happening in the world today.
Yeah.
We're under a lot of Republican, I don't want to say control, I'm trying to think of the word here, but let's hear some stances on what's happening now. You hear a lot with tariffs.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on tariffs?
Yeah. So as you said, right now the federal government is fully controlled by the Republican majority in Congress and by President Trump. The tariff war that the president and this administration have launched is really going to do a lot of damage to our economy. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to see more manufacturing brought back to America. And we certainly want to see that happen here. The small businesses I've been talking about are a perfect example. What's happening with this tariff war is that the president's authority to put tariffs on other countries is supposed to be an emergency authority. Well, he's abusing that. And it's a tariff basically are being levied on countries changing practically daily, depending on what the president decides. What that's doing for businesses that we want to see make investments is that it's making it impossible for them to be able to make an investment and know that their cost environment is going to be stable. And if you're building a factory, you need to be able to plan 5 to 10 years out. Well, if your cost of materials is totally unknown because of a tariff war that's changing daily, that's going to make it really hard for you to support making a big investment that needs a long-term payoff. What we're seeing right now for farmers, just as one example, is that the tariffs that we've put on Chinese goods has led China to stop buying American soybeans. Typically, in a given year, China is our biggest purchaser of soybeans for export. We grow more soybeans in this country than we can eat ourselves, so they have to go somewhere. And because China is no longer buying American soybeans, the price of soybeans is below the cost of production. And soybean farmers have got a real problem right now. They're losing money this year. If they can find a place to sell their beans, they're likely losing money on it. Farmers can't sustain those kind of losses, and you can't bail them out fully from the cost of that. And what's ironic about this is that farmers have spent years paying their own money into these checkoff programs to develop these markets.
Mm-hmm.
So it took many years to establish the export markets to China that we have right now for agriculture. And the president's wiped some of those away with some bad decisions around tariffs that is costing us twice, at least.
Okay. Let's then inflation. You were talking about that. That's all part of it as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times we were hearing inflation with fuel. It's kind of, I don't know if it's kind of stabilized right now, as I can understand by my own vehicle, but
Yeah.
but you're saying tariffs also can cause some inflation in other areas, right?
Well, they can, as the price of materials, steel or aluminum,
Mm-hmm.
gets higher as a result of these tariffs. That's going to lead to increases in costs for finished goods, such as cars and trucks. Now, a lot of manufacturers were buying ahead to try to get ahead of the tariff war. And so I think we're still right now enjoying, I guess, some of the supply that's already been brought in. But as these tariffs continue, the effect on prices is going to be felt more and more severely. And just make no mistake about it, tariffs are paid here at home by people that import products. And most of those products that are subject to tariffs, the end consumers who receive them are going to be the ones who pay them. I mean, I was looking to buy a set of windows earlier this year. The Canadian company that made those windows had a big notice on their website that said, you may be subject to 20 or 25% tariff when these are shipped to you. We can't tell you what that's going to be because that's up to the Americans, but I had to make a decision where to buy my windows, knowing that I might have been slapped with that kind of a fee. So it's going to continue to create uncertainty in the economy, and I think that's my biggest concern about tariffs, and I think that's what economists would tell you we need to be looking at.
And if you were to get into the position and win that seat, you would be able to vote on this stuff within the Congress. That things like this that they want to do, and hopefully get that word out on what you're supporting.
Well, that's right, Tom. And it's honestly one of the things that I think is most important in this election is that we need Congress to do its job. You know, we all know that we have a Constitution, and the Constitution calls for the balance of power between the judiciary and the courts, and the executive and the president and the Congress. And right now, Congress has not been doing their job. The tariff authority belongs to Congress. There's not an economic emergency right now, and the use of tariffs is a power that belongs to Congress. And yeah, I want to see Congress take that power back.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about. I think gun laws. That's always something that's a concern.
Sure.
Some want them, some don't. What's your stance on it?
Well, I've been a gun owner for years. I'm a hunter. I enjoy spring turkey. I enjoy deer hunting. I'm a handgun owner. The right to bear arms is a clear right that we need to continue to protect. I also don't want to see troubled young kids walking into schools with assault rifles and creating the kind of murder and just awful carnage that we've seen over and over and over again in this country. So I believe, and I am far from alone in believing, that we need to find reasonable ways to keep assault rifles and some of the most dangerous weapons out there out of the hands of people who don't know how to use them and maybe are not mentally stable enough to use them. We've got to find some common ground there.
Okay.
And, school shootings happens from people from all kinds of different backgrounds. The political violence that we've seen in recent months, It's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democratic thing, not a left or a right thing. We've seen it on both sides. To me, there's no better reason to work together than to try to find ways to make ourselves safer as a society. It's just not acceptable.
And if you were elected into this, you see yourself working on both sides of the table, both with Republicans and Democrats, to make things move forward.
That's something that when I served in the state legislature, I did work with everybody. And I believe that's what voters and citizens expect from us. So I took it as my responsibility, number one, to work hard for everybody I represented, whether they voted for me or not.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody came into my office who didn't vote for me, I took it as a personal mission to make sure that we could support that person just as effectively. And I did a lot of bipartisan work in the state legislature. And again, most of Wisconsin is not deep urban cities. Most of Wisconsin is rural and has people from both parties. And if we're not working together, we're not doing what's best for our communities.
Well, it's just been a lot of change in the last, well, I'd say 10 years. But more and more you hear now than ever, the change, the divide, the left, the right.
Yeah.
It's what makes you want to come into this now over that?
That's a good question.
It's a tough, that's a hard one to swallow.
Yeah, it is so partisan right now, and everybody sees it. And it's not, it's both sides. I truly think there are a lot of maybe well-meaning liberals who are out of touch and extreme and want to have a purity test about what it ought to mean to be a liberal or a Democrat or a progressive, name your label. And on the right as well, just some of the extreme calls for violence and language that makes it look like half the country is the enemy and hates America. Well, that's not true. And I know that doesn't describe most people. So I'm the kind of person that is willing and feels committed to work with everybody. Okay. And I would like to bring that back to northern Wisconsin.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk a little bit about clean energy, electric, things like that. Some places say no, you see these around town, no windmills, things like that. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on clean energy within the state.
Well, I think overall, it's one of our best opportunities to be energy independent. Though, as everybody knows, we don't make oil here in Wisconsin. We don't have coal here in Wisconsin. So renewable energy from geothermal or wind or solar, these are the opportunities we have to make our own energy. It also turns out that today, solar energy especially is one of the cheapest forms of energy. So why wouldn't we want to see that kind of renewable energy, especially when it doesn't have to be utilities that own it all. For rural landowners or farmers who want to see solar as part of their, call it part of their mix, selling agricultural crops and renewable energy as a component of that, I think we should absolutely support that. So I want to see a policy environment where we can grow that. I truly think it's one of our best opportunities.
Okay, let's talk about roads. Roads are always a thing in the local, probably the state too. I don't know how much you would be involved in that in the 7th Congressional, I guess, but maybe there is, maybe there's not. Is there anything in there that you do with roads?
Well, from the federal government standpoint, I think you have things like highway standards that provides tools that states can use. And then a big piece of it is funding. So maintaining roads is always a complex thing because you have town roads, county roads, state roads, and then of course our interstate system. Yeah. But federal funding goes to every one of those pieces of our road infrastructure, our road system. And if we didn't have federal funding, a whole lot more of that burden would fall on local taxpayers. So from that standpoint, yep, federal government's got an important role to play in our transportation system. And I want to make sure that we continue to do that so the burden of having roads doesn't fall solely on property taxpayers. And let's face it, if we have a crummy road network, people aren't going to want to move to these communities. It's a quality of life issue that's important for the future.
How about the local governments within the state? There's villages, there's city like us here at the city of Marshfield.
Yeah.
Where would you get, where would you get involved, or would you get involved in anything to help local governments? Right now, local government, some have a hard time just to balance a budget.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's anything that you can do if elected into that position. Maybe you can.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Well, a lot of that is a state issue, and so what isn't specifically an authority of the federal government should be a state and local issue. And so, number one, I totally support that. But one of the ways the federal government does help is, again, by providing formula funding that goes to roads, it goes to healthcare networks, that helps support schools. Those are all sort of locally managed issues, but where federal resources are really an important piece of it. And when we see the big cuts to federal funding that have come out of the current administration in Washington, that stuff trickles down. And we're already seeing the effects of that lack of funding. There was a whole lot of funding that was made available in what was called the bipartisan infrastructure law that came under the Biden administration, and the big bill, the big climate bill that came out of the Biden. A lot of that's been clawed back. That meant a whole lot of good projects that were set to go in local communities are not going to happen. That's going to hurt us. There's lost opportunity.
Definitely. And in the news, even though this program may run after our government shutdowns, although we hear them every 3 months, and now we are in a government shutdown.
Yeah.
What would you do if you're in that position right now?
Yeah.
That you have to make a vote on which way?
Yeah. That's a really tough one. And of course, Republicans are in charge, but they're looking for Democratic votes in the Senate to be able to pass the continuing resolution. And the Democrats are holding out. And I don't fault them for that, because what's at stake here is a huge benefit that goes to a lot of middle-class people and farmers and small business owners in the premium credits for the Affordable Care Act. It's what makes insurance affordable for a large segment of our population that can't find private insurance affordably. Those credits are set to go away at the end of this year. If that happens, the premiums people pay in the Affordable Care Act are going to double or more. And that's going to force millions of Americans off of there because they won't be able to afford it. People are going to get sicker and not get the care that they need. And our rural healthcare system is going to be under a lot of stress because that system depends on patients who are paying the bills. So right now, it's a very messy situation. But what do we do to fix it? Long term, we need a better budgeting process. And right now, we're going through this thing where there's a debt limit, and we got to increase the ceiling on it every time we go through a budget cycle. I would be supportive of legislation to just create a different system for that, where if Congress can't agree on what the budget should be, then we would just continue under the original budget. But right now, we get this high-stakes drama that happens every year.
Yep.
Bad for everybody.
Every year, or if not more than once a year. But let's talk about where you're going to be over the next year. Are you going to have town halls come back in this area? How does people contact you if they want to know more about you, a website, all those things?
Absolutely. So, yep, here it is, October, what's today? The 13th?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got about a year and 1 month that I'll be campaigning. I'll be in every one of the 26 counties in the 7th Congressional District. I'll be holding town halls, going to events, talking to families, talking to voters across the board, Republican, Independent, Democrat, and working up toward the general election, which will be the first Tuesday in November 2026. But you can learn more at our campaign website. It's clark4wi.com, CLARKFORWI.com. And you can learn more about my positions there. You can sign up if you want to stay on our list where we update you about events. And I'm really looking forward to having a debate with both Republicans and Democrats who are going to jump into this race now that's an open seat this year.
How long can that take place? Can someone be running? Is it all the way up to like the primary? I'm not sure how that works. Do you know?
Yes.
Next year, I think yet they still can run.
Well, you need to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
You need to submit your nomination papers, and there's a date in April.
Okay.
When that's got to be. So anybody that wants to be on the ballot's got to get their signatures from legal voters in their district and file that by a date in April. And then you're on the ballot, and the primary election is in August. And then the winner of the primary from both parties, or every party, would then go to the general election.
Although it's early on right now.
Right.
I don't know if anyone else put their name in the hat for Democrat or Republican, but like any time, we invite any of them to come.
Yeah.
If you're watching or would like someone to come, so that's what we're here for. If we want to interview, give everyone the opportunity to talk to the voters out there, our community.
Sure.
We appreciate you coming and getting a hold of me. I couldn't believe it's this early. I think my coworker here this morning said, "What? It's already?" I'm like, "Yep."
Here we are.
Here we are. And
but
even though 2025 is kind of a slower election this time, but it's really going to kick in. And with Tom Tiffany now pushing over to run for governor, and then that governor race.
That's right.
That's another biggie. But yours is too. I mean, that's a major one. So
sure.
Anything else before we run out of time here? We're almost out of time.
All right. Well, I'll just say that it's important who represents us in Washington, and northern Wisconsin deserves a representative who will listen, who's willing to travel the length and breadth of this big district and understand what makes central and northern Wisconsin work. And that's the job of a representative. And I'd like to show people that I can do that and demonstrate for people what good representation looks like. So, Tom, I appreciate the invite to come in today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fred, for coming. We appreciate it, and we'll get this on and share it with the people here in Marshfield and beyond, and get you on your way here. But this is one of the first to get to know already here in the fall, and that's coming up already for the 7th Congressional District, which is now under Tom Tiffany, but he's going to be moving on. So thanks again for tuning in to our Marshfield Broadcasting program.